we've got with us somebody who is managing partner at Integria Consult, one of the few consulting companies in Russia focused on customer experience. She is a CXPA recognized trainer only in Eastern Europe and an author and an avid blogger. She is one of the global CX thought leaders in the world, and we're welcoming her onto our digital stage right now. So everybody at home, as I introduce you to the international CX strategy expert and customer-centric culture transformation specialist, please put your hands together for Miss Olga Guseva. A huge round of applause as she joins us on screen right now. Miss Olga Guseva, thank you for being here. In India, we're saying good afternoon. I know you're joining us from another part of the world, so thank you for being here and you're taking this session forward.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's my real pleasure to meet you. And today I'm going to be speaking about a very important and actual topic. And the topic is actually so important that the organizers of today's fest have decided to devote 2 slots to it. And this explains why the topic is really so important. We need more than 1 hour. So I'm going to be talking with you today about the return on investment on your customer experience initiatives. I'm going to give you the basics, and in the afternoon, you're going to enjoy another masterclass of my wonderful colleague. Her name is Diane Megers. Please don't miss her. And she's going to be giving you some juicy details, how really to maximize customer value and how really prove how it works. So let me start by starting this workshop. And I would really love to be this, not just my talking head talking to you, but really the workshop when you bring back home some practical knowledge you can implement in your company. In order to do that, I will ask you to pick up a pen and a paper, whatever is convenient for you, to make some notes so that after we are done, you can bring it back to the company and discuss with your team. So the few words about myself. Yes, my name is Olga Guseva. I am a founding partner of Integria Consult. We work a lot with global and local Russian companies implementing various projects in the area of customer experience, particularly in the area of CX strategy and customer-centric culture transformation. And I spent most of my life in marketing and customer experience. I'm judging the number of international and local CX awards and co-author of 2 Amazon bestsellers together with Olga Potaptseva, who was speaking before me, Customer Experience 1 and Customer Experience 2. And I would love to bring you all the knowledge I see from international competitions and business cases. And I can tell you that really the value of clearness about the commercial effect of customer experience is a very actual topic all across the world. From the first point of view, it seems pretty obvious. We all know this link. Everything starts from customer experience, what customer feels, hears, or how he or she interacts with the company. And if we consistently manage to meet or exceed customer expectations, this leads to increased satisfaction and good brand perception, and gradually builds into the loyalty and builds customer advocacy. And this naturally transforms into increase in profit in revenue. This links is kind of obvious for everyone who is engaged in customer experience. But quite frequently, when we talk to chief executives, to directors of other departments, we see faces like that. So we see front faces and rolled eyes, and despite the fact that company frequently saying, yes, customer is our #1 priority, we will do for the customer everything we need to do. But when it comes, like Olga Potaptseva was saying in the previous keynote session, when it comes to action, That's where the trouble starts. And people from finance, from marketing, from operations, your chief executive officer says, yes, customer experience is of course important, but we have to concentrate on sales. We have other priorities. And most of you have heard these words before. And from the other side, when we come to management board with an exciting initiatives, let's do this for the customers, let's do that, let's implement this project, we are looking kind of like these, like excited kids who are dreaming about something, but it's really a beautiful dream. And it's nice to have, but it's not really about budgets. It's not really about money and project management. So why is it so difficult to prove the real value of CX? We all know the different and numerous research that proves it theoretically. But in reality, in the reality of your own company, it's really complicated. And what's the reason? Top managers are used to talk numbers, not emotions, not customer emotions. And customer experience is frequently like a cloud. Everyone can see it and understands how important it is, but you cannot really touch and feel it. And we all know whatever gets measured gets managed. And on the other side, if you can't measure it, you cannot manage it. And that's why so many executives are really struggling with the notion of understanding the value of customer experience. Luckily, there are some approaches that can help you quantify the value of customer experience initiatives and talk the same language, the language of numbers, with your executives. So when we move on, I encourage you to take a pen and a piece of paper and write down your thoughts. Why do you think it is important to talk numbers? You might have your own view on this, but let me share the views that I frequently hear from my colleagues across the world. It's really important for me as a CX person to be heard by top management and to get support from CEO, Chief Executive Officer, or from the financial director. It's important for the company to set up numerical, measurable goals for all your CX initiatives and strategies. It is important for myself as a CX specialist, and it's important for the company in general. It's important to keep track of the progress. Again, like Olga was saying before, it's really important to understand where you are and whether we are moving in the right direction or not. It's really important to distribute carefully the scarce resources within the company. And it's really important for us ourselves to understand the links between the link between the customer experience and commercial metrics, just to understand which initiatives really bring value and which are really not. And that means that we need to calculate the return on investment of almost every tangible CX initiative we are doing. Let's look at the other side. Why is it so difficult to talk numbers? And first of all, in order to measure something, you need to have a measurement system in your company. If you don't measure the quality of customer experience and do it reliably, you cannot correlate it to your commercial performance. The next question is, how reliable and trustworthy is the data we are collecting? Can we really trust this data? Then there is always a balance between short-term and long-term efforts. Some of our initiatives, especially the initiatives that are related to customer-centric culture transformation, they could take years to happen. And it's really important to know the short-term and the long-term effect of each initiative and what's the proportion between them, and not expect the positive changes from customer-centric culture transformation in the first month, not to create false expectations. And then again, we are not forgetting, we are not the only ones in this world, and there are a lot of things that influence customer experience, not only what we are doing as a company, but also our competitors are influencing it. Maybe competitors have introduced a fantastic delivery system. Maybe they have enhanced the product. Maybe they have introduced something fantastic in terms of customer service, and the expectations of our customers gonna grow in accordance with this new level of service our competitor is offering. Macroeconomical factors can influence this as well. We're gonna be talking more about it a little bit later, but it's really bringing the difficulty into the measurement system. When we talk about the measurement system, and here let me refer to the model that have been created by my colleague, teacher and mentor, Ian Golding, and this system is always a part of the customer experience masterclass created by Ian that I'm delivering in Russia, in Russian language. And the idea is very simple. There is no single perfect customer experience metric. What's really important is to have the measurement system, to use different metrics. Each of them has strong and weak sides, and the best way is when you have it combined together as a system. So if we look at this system, on the very top, we're going to have commercial metrics, business metrics for the company. It could be return on investment on all the projects the company is doing. It could be profit. It could be market share. It could be the percentage of sales, gross margin, number of recommendations, LTV. It could be average purchase price, etc., 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 depending on business. But basically, every business usually knows which are the commercial metrics that are important for them. And we, as CX specialists, do need to understand these numbers, know how they are working and which commercial metrics are used within the company. And we really need to talk to finance guys to ask their help to understand them, which metrics are used and how they are used within the company. The next level of measurements, and these are the measures we are usually working with, are CX metrics, our traditional customer experience metrics like NPS, like satisfaction metrics or customer effort score. So this is the level of measurement we are used to work with. But on the bottom of this pyramid, there is another layer called process metrics. And these metrics define and explain how the business is performing in creating customer experience. What's the percentage of, defect details that are going out of the conveyor? What's the average time to answer the call? What's the FCR, first call resolution, the percentage of consumer complaints that have been resolved from the first call, etc., etc., etc. For every single business, they're going to be specific operational metrics that help the business understand whether we are good or not, whether we are coping with our daily tasks or not. And now my question to you is how the measurement system looks in your company. Take again your piece of paper and a pen and write down which metrics do you have in your company. Draw this pyramid. On the very top, write down the commercial metrics. In the middle, write down CX metrics. On the very bottom, write down operational metrics your business is using. It might happen that you don't know all of them. If you are in CX department, you're probably very knowledgeable about CX metrics you are using, but you might have a very limited knowledge about the generic commercial metrics that are used in the company. You don't know which are really most important ones and which are you using. On the other side, with the operational metrics, it could happen you don't really know how the business is measuring its performance. Then it's a big question that you can ask yourself, where can I find this information? And who are the people that can help me get this information? And these are very important questions to take back when you come to your company. Because without understanding the whole system, you won't be able to build a link. Now, let's take a closer look to the upper side of this, to the lower side of this pyramid. And let's look at the link between operational metrics and CX metrics. Let's imagine that we are working in the company and we have done the measurement, and we know that NPS, Net Promoter Score, is 75 percentage points. Now, the question is, what would be the next most important question to ask? If you would have time, we would discuss here a little bit, but I will save a bit of your time by giving you the answer. And the answer is why? Why NPS is 75? What makes our customers give this level of loyalty and appreciation? And the question why really brings us to understanding that we need to know where this number comes from. What drives the loyalty of your customers, or what doesn't let them love you more? You could find, and naturally you will find this out by asking them asking your customers the loyalty questions, like after you ask, please rate our services, or how would you be ready to recommend the company or the service on the scale from 0 to 10, like a classical NPS question. Then you would complement it with another question. Would you please share why you gave this rating to us? And this is exactly the question that makes the magic, that gives us an understanding why the customer is having this or that level of loyalty. And you can discover completely different things depending again on your business and the nature of your product. It could be speed of service, it could be reliability, it could be the combination and price of quality, it could be some additional qualities, it could be ease, it could be friendliness of your staff, it could be a million different things. But the more data you collect, the more clear trends you're going to see, and the more understanding you're going to have why your customers giving you this or that score. And by knowing this, probably those of you who have been born in the previous century, you remember this game called Tetris. It was incredibly popular in Russia and probably in some other countries as well. So the idea of this game was that there were colorful pieces falling down, and in the end you got like a full colorful field of small blocks of different color. Basically, your NPS score, if you're talking about NPS, is also something like that. Each day, a customer interacts with you and you create some impressions. And customer is making inferences whether my customer experience was good or it actually could have been better. And something is related to, I don't know, speed of service. Sometimes my, I don't know, manager was not very attentive. Sometimes the package came broken, the delivery was late, etc. So the more information you collect, then you can group this information into like different colors, like here. Say red could be reliability of your own product and services. Green, the quality of work of the contact center, and so on. So basically, you can build something like a composition of your NPS. Which factors influence your NPS? And then when you know the composition, you're going to think how you're going to measure each color. If you're talking about speed of service, what you're probably going to use? Probably a waiting time and average handling time, seconds to answer the phone. If you're talking about reliability of the product, what could be here? For example, the percentage of defective items that go out of your production line, or percentage of returns due to improper quality, percentage of downtime of your software, or percentage of critical errors, etc. For each loyalty driver, you could be looking for specific operational metrics that will tell you how good you are at delivering specifically the speed of service. And if you know your loyalty drivers, you can manage them and measure them. But then some of these loyalty drivers, it's going to be really simple and you can measure them easily. Some are going to be really complicated. And then you can do another level of decomposition and say, look at the simplicity. Simplicity can be built in many ways. It could be the simplicity of the product or the simplicity of service. For example, if you have purchased the software, this one aspect of simplicity could be whether the interface is intuitive enough. and you can handle it yourself. And another aspect is the simplicity of working with the tech support. Can I call them? Can I message them? Are they available 24 hours per day, etc.? So you can take this loyalty driver, this simplicity, and further make a decomposition, what it consists of. And the deeper you go, the more clarity you're going to have, which are the measurements you can use in order to understand whether you're performing good or not. And here you can also link it to your customer journey map and ask yourself when these interactions between company and the consumer are happening, and look at the touch points when you can make these measurements. For example, if we keep talking about the simplicity, then probably I would be measuring it at the point when customer receives the software, when there is an upgrade, and when the customer decides to use a new feature, and I don't know, for example, calls to a call center. So these are specific touch points at your customer journey map where you're going to measure your loyalty driver, your simplicity. And when you have it all linked together, when you understand the composition of your NPS, for example, and decomposition of a more complicated loyalty drivers, you exactly know what drives the loyalty of your customers. And then bingo, you have built a link between your CX metric, the Net Promoter Score, and the performance of your business, the operational metrics. I'm giving NPS as an example, but basically you can do this work with any metric you are using to do. It's the same principle you can apply to working with customer satisfaction with CSI index or with customer effort score with CS index. And now I would like you again to take your pen and paper and write down the question for yourself. How can I link operational and CX metrics in my company? What do I need to do? Which questions do I need to ask myself to find this link, to build it? Whom do I need to talk to? Which information am I missing? And maybe I need to learn more. Maybe I need to talk to operational guys or guys from the call center. Maybe I need to alter my management system to understand my loyalty drivers. Just take a moment to write it down. Maybe you won't be able to find all answers to your questions today and now, but writing down the questions is already a very important thing to do, because that is a first step to change. So please take your time to write it down. And we will move on to the second part of the pyramid, to the top part of the pyramid. And let's talk about the link between commercial and customer experience metrics. You know what? I came from advertising, and in advertising world, now with the increase of digital media, it's really simple. The calculation of return on investment, say when you run a Facebook campaign, is very simple, because you exactly know how much money you have spent on this specific campaign, on this specific segment. You know how many leads you have received from this campaign, really know by the very last cent how much money it cost you, and how much money you have gained, how many leads you have received. And basically the formula, the calculation is very simple. You can always correlate the expenses and the benefit you have received. Basically, the idea with CX calculations is the same. At step 0, you define your commercial metrics. At step 1, you measure your CX metrics. Then you implement some changes in the program. Then you wait until customers react to changes, and then you remeasure and reevaluate the changes. But unlike with the calculation of the effect of advertising, it could take quite a long, it could take time, months, or even years before this link happens. But the generic principle stays the same. You measure, you do something, and then you measure again. And again, let's take NPS further as an example and build the same system, and we're going to be able to use it for other metrics as well. So, for example, let's first step we can do. We have the NPS numbers. Let's make the decomposition of your NPS score into 3 categories: your promoters, your neutrals, and your detractors. And then you can look at each segment separately, understand the number of customers in each category, and, for example, take the average purchase per customer. And then you can calculate your income per customer category. And then it already reveals you some really interesting details, because you most probably gonna see that your promoters spend more with your company, neutrals be somewhat in the middle, and detractors are really spending less with your company because they're unhappy. You can go even further, and you can look at the time span and see how these percentages are changing over time, and look how the average purchase per customer is changing in each segment, and then calculate the difference. So this is imaginary effect. Let's say there is a company that had a specific breakdown between promoters, neutrals, and detractors, and then they have done some CX improvements, and due to that fact, the number of promoters have grown, the number of neutrals stayed the same, but the number of detractors have dropped. And also the average purchase per customer, just for the simplicity of example, stayed the same. Then it's very easy. If the numbers have changed, we can recalculate these numbers per segment and see exactly how much more money have we earned thanks to the change in NPS. Here we come to specific numbers that we can take to management board, to your chief executive officer, to your finance director, and ask for budget for CX initiatives, because you have exactly calculated how much value you have brought by increasing the number of promoters in your company. This may sound a little bit theoretical, but let me show you an example. This is a real example from Russia, from Alfa Bank, and Alfa Bank is the largest Russian commercial bank operating now in the country. What they have done, the slide is in Russian, but let me explain, it's very simple. What they have done, exactly the same principle. They have segmented all their database of customers into 3 specific segments: detractors, neutrals, and promoters. And they started looking at how those people are behaving differently. They've been looking at cross sales, and that's a blue diagram. And you see that promoters are much more prone to buy more products from the company. The orange diagram is the number of calls to call center. The detractors are calling more, neutrals are somewhat in the average, and promoters are calling less. The red diagram is the number of customer complaints filed per certain number of people. So again, we see that the critics are complaining more, while promoters are more happy they are not complaining. And finally, the green diagram is the number of visits per retail office. Again, promoters are people who are not coming to the office, and those who are from the banking industry, they know that running a retail office is one of the most expensive operations in a bank. So promoters are coming less. That means that the bank is saving money. This is a very simple system that you can implement in your company if you have a luxury of knowing personally each customer who is giving you this or that number. This could be implemented in banking, in telecom industry, and in Russia there are very interesting examples from a telecom industry when one of the largest telecom operators not only knows exactly NPS and decomposition of the NPS, but they also know which level, target level of NPS they need to reach in the region, and what should be the difference with other telecom operators in order so that customers don't go to competitors, that they stay with this specific operator. If the difference in percentage points is not big enough, customers can go to another operator. If the difference is too big, that's of course good for the company, but that costs a lot of money. Each percentage point is very expensive. So the company is really carefully spreading their limited resources to spend as less as practical and to receive maximum effect. And another approach you can use and prove your colleagues from commercial department, from finance department, how CX is influencing your profits is looking at the cost of acquisition. Cost or customer acquisition cost is actually one of the key commercial drivers, but unfortunately, very frequently, when we ask companies, what's your customer acquisition cost? They cannot answer it. It's very easy to calculate again in digital environment, but when we come to a blended environment, when it's a mix of retail and online, omni-channel, it's getting really difficult and companies don't really bother of calculating it, which is a great pity because it's really important for the business to know how much does it cost me to bring new customer on board. So if we know this number, that's a huge advantage for us, because if we know how much does it cost me as a business to attract new customer, and we don't know that this number is growing every year, and then you can quantify the value of recommendations. And again, in this imaginary example, the company have been doing some work to increase the number of people who are making recommendations. It was 0 in first period, and there were 100 people, 100 customers who came by recommendation. And then again, you can quantify how much budget do you need to invest specific number of new customers, and how much you can save by not spending this money, because if people come by recommendation, the cost is 0. And again, you can build this spreadsheet and show specifically to your boss and to your chief executive officer how much your company is saving thanks to increase in your recommendational activity for your customers. Another approach I'd like to share with you is connected to lifetime value. And basically, lifetime value is the metric that tells you how much money the customer is spending with my company through all the life cycle. For example, I'm purchasing a car, I'm making a service, I'm buying spare parts, I'm doing some maintenance work, and you keep calculating all these costs, and then you know the LTV, a lifetime value, how much money I as a customer have spent with you as a company while I've been owning this car. And again, this is example from the banking industry, from Alpha Bank. They've been measuring, they know the LTV of different segments, and they know exactly how much money the customer is bringing to the bank as he moves along the life cycle. And the bank knows that the longer the customer stays with the bank, the more money it brings to the bank. That's the red graph. And they already know how long the customer shall stay with the bank in order to build trust, to use more services. And this is exactly the time when bank starts earning more money from this customer. And loyal customers, if again, we use this approach of dividing the customer base to neutrals, promoters, and detractors. We can exactly know how long the detractors are staying, how long are staying neutrals, and how long are staying the promoters. Calculate the difference, and knowing this LTV actually show to everyone within the organization how much value CX brings and how important it is for the whole company to work on customer experience. And to more examples from our partners, we are working with the market culture, the creators of Market Responsiveness Index. That's the index that helps companies quantify the level of customer centricity of corporate culture. And here, look at the approach the companies have been using to measure the commercial effect of customer centricity transformation projects. So this is an example from BlackRock. BlackRock is a financial company who is managing wealth of the customers. And they have been implementing a massive cultural transformation within the company. And they've been using as a metric the customer retention. So if the customer stays, the longer customer stays with the company, the more money this financial agency is earning. And in accordance with the internal estimate, the loyal customers are spending more, letting the agency manage more funds, more money, and they're staying longer with the company. And the internal estimate says us that the company have actually earned several $million in fees because companies are not leaving to competitors. They started staying more with the company. And another approach also from the banking industry, that's again the case from our partners from Market Culture, it's the bank called Westpac that's operating in Australia. And this case was related to the collection departments of the bank. These are the guys who are coming to people who haven't paid on time, and it's time to collect the money from them, basically the bad guys within the company. There was a very interesting case how they have transformed the culture and the mindset of those people from being the bad guys who are pushing for debts to the advisors and people who see themselves as a helping hand, helping the client to choose the correct payment plan they can handle. But that's not the case of our masterclass. We're talking about money. So what they have been doing is the collection. They've been measuring the collection rate. Say how many customers have been able to return the money on time, and how many customers have been able to reschedule the payment plans. And what they have seen, that the collection rates have grown 3%, which in terms of this company is worth more than $500,000 over 6 months. So customer experience is not just about smiles and a uniform, it's about real money. But our question is to find the right tools and the right metrics to be convincing with ourselves and with the management of the company. Our expertise is needed to find this right link. And let's briefly look at the influence of other factors. Let's recall on the example, the returns of mortgages have grown 3%. And then again, $1 million question. Why? What's the composition of this financial result? Because of course, we know that customer experience influences that, but also there could be other factors. Have the audience changed? Maybe the customer base have changed a little bit. Maybe the economical situation in the country have changed. Maybe the mortgage product itself have changed somehow, and there are more flexible conditions. Maybe the competitor environment have changed. Competitors have increased the rates, and that's why we all of a sudden are more attractive for the customers. Maybe the external environment have changed, and probably the COVID is the best example. The bitter truth is that the answers cannot be found in CX department only. And in order to find the answers, you need to collaborate with all other departments within the company to understand this influence. You need to talk with finance, with marketing, with HR, with operations to build all these external factors into the equation in order to see what relates to customer experience and what relates to other factors. So this is not a simple thing to do, but the benefit is huge because you're going to be convincing, you're going to be heard within the company. And now the question to you again, I'm asking you to take a piece of paper and a pen and write down your thoughts. How can I, after I've heard what I've heard today, how can I link customer experience and commercial metrics in my company? In my view, what are the metrics I shall be looking at? Which CX metrics need to be linked, and to which commercial metrics I could link it to. And again, you might have answers or you just might have questions. And this is a valuable result as well. If you write down the questions and you come to your finance team or your board of directors and say, I would love to know more about commercial metrics and how they are built within our company, because that's a first step in building this valuable link. And if you manage this to build this link, the whole company will benefit. So to wrap up the story, your takeaway of the day of this short masterclass is it's really important for you to know your existing measurement system. It's not about building something new. It's about learning what already exists in the company in terms of operational, and you talk to operations and call center and all other departments, and commercial metrics. And you need to talk to finance guys. You need to talk to internal controls and operations and business development department in order to understand that. You need to build yourself into this ecosystem of measurements within the company and make CX metrics a natural part of this system. You need to make sure that your customer experience data and metrics are bulletproof, that you yourself can trust them, that you are collecting reliable data, and you can really make business decisions based on those metrics. Then you need to find the link between operational and CX metrics. Usually it's the easier part. And then build the links between CX and commercial metrics. In order to do that, you have to collaborate with other departments. And you need to watch for influence of other factors, not to bring yourself to wrong conclusions. But after you do that, you're going to find yourself together with the board of directors really steering your business into the right direction, into the same direction. And you're going to have powerful tool to talk with your bosses, with your C-suite. You're going to talk numbers. And this is the language C-suite really understands. So that's basically it from me. On the screen, you see my contact details, and I'm very happy to connect with you on LinkedIn or on Facebook, or just drop me an email. And I'm opening the floor to questions.
Thank you, Olga, for taking us into that really in-depth masterclass. I think everybody had their pen and paper, and right now they've got a lot of points that they've taken away. You've kind of nudged us towards asking the questions, the important questions, and of course collecting the data and then enhancing understanding. But how can I link CX and commercial metrics in my company? A biggie for sure. You've given us lots to take back, and you've told us to ask the questions outside to the key stakeholders and to self as well. So thank you very much, Olga. We're not going to be taking questions right now because I think you've given us sufficient. But thank you for sharing with us, taking us through this masterclass, pretty much hand holding us through it, and right through we felt the energy of you taking us along. So thank you.
Appreciate that. And if you have questions later, please feel free to contact me.
For sure. I'm hoping that everyone in the auditorium has had a chance to get a hold of Olga's contacts, and you can reach out, ask her questions, because that's what this is about. It is about taking away as much as possible. And if the question comes to you post this session, well, just reach out and ask her. Thank you very much, Olga.
Thank you.
Well, with that, we've come to the end of our masterclass, and thanking Olga Guseva for taking us through that masterclass.